Hey everybody, I'm Jess Birken with Birken Law Office, and we are here today with my good friend Tom Wertish of Novallus Insurance. We're going to talk about insurance for your small nonprofit startup. Last time we talked about directors and officers insurance, so be sure to check out that video if you haven't seen it. This time we are going to be talking about general liability, which Tom has told us is an important policy to have for your nonprofit startup. Now, I know the nonprofit startups that I work with a lot of times are a little resistant to even get the directors and officers insurance until I explain how much personal liability there can be for board members. So I'm guessing that there's an equal amount of friction on buying a second policy or even a third or a fourth policy. So maybe you can tell us, Tom, like, what is general liability coverage? What is it good for?
Yeah, thanks, Jess. Thanks for having me. The people typically, A, don't want to buy more insurance than they need, and then B, don't want to spend more than they should on their insurance. But I think general liability is often overlooked by for-profit and nonprofit businesses alike. General liability insurance is coverage for bodily injury and property damage of others. And so, it's for those slip and falls. It's for, you're meeting with somebody and you damage some of their property, those sorts of things, the really weird, like physical damage things that can happen, the one-offs. That's really where you need it. And really, we're talking a little bit about, is there a case where anyone doesn't need it? And you're like, well, if you're like this hermit that lives in a bubble that doesn't like see anyone or interact with anyone at all, like...
Which is impossible if you're a nonprofit, because we're serving the public, right? We're benefiting the public, or at least we're benefiting our members, and we're probably impacting their lives in some way, one would hope.
Right. So just like with your car, if you're out driving on the road, is there a risk of you injuring someone or damaging their property? Yes, there is, just like you as an individual or on behalf of your nonprofit. If you're out in the world, stuff happens, and there's definitely a risk of injuring someone or damaging their property, and it being the fault of you acting on behalf of your nonprofit.
Yeah, right. So these are things like church, and you're holding church service, and someone gets hurt while they're attending your church service, even if you don't own the building where your church occurs. Let's say you're taking a group of elderly people and you have a bunch of volunteers who bring their pontoon boats, and you're loading up participants onto boats. Maybe one of the boats gets damaged, or one of the elderly people gets hurt while they're on the excursion. Dog rescue, or, something. Yeah,
there's so many out there. I mean, I have a business that does cleaning, and last week they were moving the garbage cans in the garage of one of their customers, and they went to shut the garage door, and it wrapped around the garbage can and destroyed a garage door. So they were damaging someone else's property. I think that everyone was happy that came out, because something must have been wrong with the sensors in the garage to allow it to happen. But still, like, the weirdest things can happen. And it goes back to, like, a garage door probably costs $3,000 or $4,000 versus a general liability policy that might be, $400 or $500. It's like paying a little bit, getting into the law of large numbers, so that some freak weird thing that can happen doesn't totally, take your nonprofit out of its mission.
Yeah. One of the pushback arguments that I hear is, oh, none of our volunteers would ever sue us, or none of our, congregants in our church would ever sue us. We have a good relationship with everybody. It's not always up to the person who's injured or the piece of property that's injured. The insurance company on the other side can step into the shoes of the person who's hurt, and there's a fancy term for that. It's called subrogation. But basically, the insurance company for the person who's injured can come after you without, really the person's permission. So just because you have a great relationship with your volunteers or your participants doesn't, that's not insurance. It doesn't insure you against having a claim.
Absolutely. I could have the nicest person that would never do anything wrong, but if, ABC insurance company wouldn't pay $100,000 for their, surgery and rehab, they're going to try and recover that, because that's their money that they're going to come after. If there's someone else that they can, pin it on, in this case, if you were responsible for that, certainly they're going to go after
Right on. So, Tom, this sounds like one of the situations where the group should really have a good conversation with their agent to make sure that they're getting good coverage.
It really is. You know, you see a lot of people that try and do it yourself in insurance, and it really opens yourself up to more damage than I think it's worth. You know, you're going to spin your wheels trying to compare policies and trying to compare different deductibles and premiums. And, you know, what do I do all day? Well, I'm independent, so I work with a lot of different companies, try and find a good match for people, and I'll read the policies. We'll talk about them together. We'll talk about what's included, what's excluded, so that when we come to have a problem, it's not a big surprise of, oh, I don't have coverage for this because I didn't select this option.
Right. I'm the dog rescue. Somebody got bit by the dog, and now I find out my general liability didn't cover animals. Oops. So have that conversation with your insurance agent on the front side. Make sure you're buying the best policy for your nonprofit, not just the cheapest one, okay? So thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for watching, and we're going to keep going.
We're going to just keep doing these. We got lots more to talk about. All right, cool.
Thank you.